So Rambo, walks really, slow over to Mickey, who's like impaled in the wall or stapled to the wall by the knife going through him. And at this point, Mickey's dropped the pistol, and Rambo picks up the pistol off the ground, and he puts it in Mickey's mouth, and then he cocks the chamber, to cock the bullet off the top. Like, he grabs the top of the pistol and cocks it back, and then he takes the pistol out of his mouth, and he says, "It's not going to be that easy." Drops the pistol and just pounds, forearm with the elbow, just pounds Mickey Rourke's face in and in and in and in, and just makes it personal. Caves in his face, fracturing and eventually breaking his skull until his face is like a pulp. It kind of reminds me of that awesome standoff Mickey Rourke and Stallone have in that Get Carter remake. At the end when Sly is punching the shit out of Mickey on the ground, bam, 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 and then he takes the gun out and puts it to his face, and that look of fucking terror in Stallone's eyes, and that look of terror and fear on Mickey Rourke's eyes. Because you never really know what happens to Mickey Rourke in that movie. You don't know if he dies or not, but you can definitely tell by that last look on his face that he has the fear of God. And it kind of reminds me of that. But, Mickey does die, obviously, in this movie. So, to close out everything, to get to our closing scene, Rambo, goes back up, crawls out the hatch at the top. He's walking out amongst the rubble. The American forces start showing up. They start congratulating. "Oh, you did it, you did it." At one point, one of them, Griggs, is actually there. And Griggs, this is a great moment. Griggs says, "Rambo, we couldn't leave a good man behind. We made sure we had to come back for you. This time, And Rambo just turns to Griggs with this just look of, "I don't fucking care anymore," And he says to Griggs, "That's a first." And he walks off, presumably into the sequel or the sunset. Now, I wanted to end it on a high note, and usually every time I write something that turns into one of my fan scripts or something like that, I usually have a montage where the credit sequence actually has something taking place in the credit sequence, and after the credit sequence there's an additional scene. So the credit sequence here is Rambo walking away down the hill, away from the Americans who've come to do their own thing, and it's a long shot of Rambo walking down the mountain, kind of questioning his aspects of American faith again. And we get the credit roll, presumably off into the sequel, like I said before. But needless to say, it would have been a 90-minute a 90-minute NC-17 action thriller. In a way, it was too close to the 9/11. I had some 9/11 stuff in there, but it was a little too close to home, and it came off a little bit too cartoonish, I would have thought. Like it wasn't big enough or epic enough. It would have been a clever popcorn movie, nostalgic, but not big enough to be an accomplished, anticipated, what do you call that? Like thriller since the trilogy, like a anticipated crux thriller since the trilogy. It was actually called, the title for this script was actually called Rambo 4 Fate of Nations, like Rambo Roman numeral 4 Fate of Nations. You know, and I am jumping a little bit ahead because we're still in the closing credit sequence, but after the closing credit sequence, we're treated to Rambo in Washington at the grave of Colonel Troutman, asking, himself, talking to himself, saying, what was all this for? Is there any truth to this? Paying his respects, last time seeing his best friend, and wondering how his whole life is tied into this crazy theory that they were spitting around, previously. And pretty much it comes down to this time Rambo has to know for himself, and he turns around and he spots the White House off in the distance. And, I played it more as, he walks off to the White House, and we're presumably thinking he's going to ask the questions that Rambo's going to finally find out what's going on and try to piece America back to what it used to be somehow, or at least go and finally ask the questions of what happened, what was the cover-up really, and find out. So initially I was thinking of writing a next part that would have kind of been more like a Dan Brown novel. It would have kind of been more like the Da Vinci Code, or the other book he wrote that follows the Da Vinci Code, dealing with the Illuminati and terrorism and cover-ups and just crazy shit. But I just thought it was really too close to home to write after what happened with 9/11. It would come back later and haunt me and get me to write again, especially with the new approach I wanted to take to it, and with eventually seeing Rambo 4 come out in the cinema in 2008, kind of ties into the alternate version of this script for Rambo 5. It still kind of flows together though, like the events of my Rambo 4 kind of ties into Rambo 5 a bit, but not really. But it does, but it's kind of like two alternate versions of the same script. But in the end, the alternate version would come across more advanced and different, and it wouldn't take place on a mountain. There would be a lot more aspects to it. Like, eventually what I would write to become my Rambo 5 fan script, or like, I should say the outline, because I haven't actually wrote the script yet, but I have tons of outline for this fucking thing. Tons of notes, like 3 or 4 notebooks just full of notes. And, my Rambo 5 would actually cover a prequel aspect. And even though the prequel aspect, which is separate, would take us to the place we began with this script that I just told you about, it was actually a really extended version of the dream montage, which we're going to get to in our next talk. But I just had to strip down a lot of the elements are there, but the execution of the things that happen aren't. So in a sense, that's why I'm talking about this now, when we were supposed to be talking about our TV series, just to give you a taste of the backstory, which is almost completely different from what I would eventually say is my scripted take on the Rambo legacy and the franchise. Not just a sequel, but a whole twist into a new Rambo universe. In a way, it was pretty cool because it's a universe that starts with, after this, it's a universe that starts with Rambo 2008. So it would be almost like a second Rambo trilogy, in a way. It's pretty weird, but I'll explain how it works later. For the moment, though, that's my pitch presentation to you for my draft of Rambo 4, way before, or a couple of years before Rambo 4 would come to fruition. And it's called Rambo 4 Fate of Nations. And I hope you've enjoyed it. You know, in the end, you find out that the good guys are not the good guys. You know, that's why Troutman's not in it, so to speak, is, you know, only in nods, if you will. And, you know, the terrorist movement have found enough nukes that they don't even care if they die, and they just want to burn the whole earth to clean it of man, which is the true evil. And there was a lot of, you know, religious undertone, I must say, so I just left it and stored it away, etc., etc. You know, eventually, you know, Rambo 4 came out, and that movie, I loved it even more. You know, maybe one day if I find my script in these boxes somewhere, I'll share it with you. Needless to say that after seeing Rambo 4 a couple of months later, I had that dream again. You know, but this time it awoke a whole different entity, with roots based in this script, but how the fourth movie kind of, you know, would tease the idea of a new trilogy, a second trilogy. So, in a sense, this one is buried, but Rambo 2008 opens a new, or, you know, gives life to a new franchise in a way. But we're going to talk about that next time. You know, first we're going to start off with the prequel. Then we're going to jump into, you know, the fifth movie. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. You know, thanks for sticking with me through this almost 90 minutes of me babbling on, talking about my pastime. You know, as normal, Rambomania would just not be the same without you. So thank you everybody for watching and taking the time to go on this, to walk this long road with us. And we're going to see you next time. And I really want to hear from you at home what you have to say about the TV series, the prequel, and the fifth movie. How would you do it? I told you how I would do the TV series. You know, even though we only talked about the TV series for like 2 minutes, 3 minutes. I want to know how you would do it. I want to know how you would do a Rambo TV series. If you had the chance and the resources, and you could use anything you wanted. And I want to know how you would do a prequel, or your take at home on a prequel and a fifth movie. So while you're getting ready for that, we're going to roll out with, you know, my take, or a shortened version of my take on the prequel and fifth movie. And you know, episode 100 is coming soon. Wild Man Beyond will make his debut, which I can't wait for. It's already been recorded, but we had a lot of problems with the internet and with Akanek Internet Company. So we didn't get to cover a lot of the things that we wanted to cover by the time Wild Man gets on. And it pretty much put me a week behind schedule. So I'll be announcing that there's going to be an extra week, maybe an extra 2 weeks to prequel month coming in the future. I'm going to tell you what to expect from that. We got some amazing special guests coming on. So until then, you know, just take care of each other, love one another, and we'll see you guys later. All right? Take care. Bye.